5 digital photography tips that can make a difference. Tip number 1. Move it from the middle. Perhaps you have heard of the photographer's rule of thirds. Having your subject off to one side can create a more balanced and eye-pleasing photo. You will see in my photo samples that my subject is always looking into the larger space. It wouldn't look right if my subject was cropped closer on the side they were looking into. Do you see how the draft is arching from the right? This allows me to create a more interesting composition. Having the subject directly in the middle would look too static with your eyes not going anywhere else. You want to draw your eye into the image. You can't help but to see the entire photo instead of just the subject. Remember that a background can play a huge role too, even if it may be blurred out. It has always been our instinct to capture a subject as being in the middle, because it is the main subject that we tend to focus on. Thus, we center it within the frame. This is where composition comes into play, as we need to strategically become aware of the subject's surroundings in creating a more eye-pleasing photo. And of course, there are rules to be broken. If you find the subject you are taking looks better in the middle, then do it. You will see in this photo I have centered my subject in the middle. This is okay for this composition since I have created the offset of the pumpkin and the leaves. If, however, I had the baby just plunked in the center with nothing around him, it would have created a very boring and static photo. Tip number 2. Notice the background. As I mentioned, a background can create just as much interest as the subject does. In this photo of my 2 sons, my older son quickly scooped up his younger brother and took him into the fountain. You wouldn't get the whole story if I were to center it and leave out the sprays of the fountain spurting up from the left. This photo of Niagara Falls from the USA side, I wanted to also capture the bright lights coming across from the Canadian side of the falls with its brightly lit high-rise building. The water going over the falls at night with the mist and lights in the background created a nice and balanced photo that is pleasing to the eye. I found this photo of the cheetah an interesting shot. I liked how the cheetah was almost the same shades of fall colors, and with the black spots it created an interesting focal point amongst the yellow and black colors of the trees behind it. You can't help but to look at the background and then back to the cheetah. Tip number 3. Get closer and notice the detail. I love getting closer to my subjects and will use my zoom lens more than any other lens. Butterflies are small, so to be able to capture the beauty of the details, you need to get up close. Having a macro lens or zoom lens is the best way to capture butterflies. You don't want to be too close physically or you could scare them away. This is what I would call an in-action shot. You will need to be patient, especially if you want to capture them in flight. Flowers are always the best subject of mine. Too many people tend to take photos of flowers being in the middle or coming from the top of them. Try being more creative. You'll see that I have allowed some space at the top of my flower so it doesn't appear cut off. Never take a shot of flowers with a flash. You'll be able to capture the beauty of the colors and shadows of a flower by using natural sunlight. This photo of the tiger was captured with my 300mm zoom lens at the Toronto Zoo. I love zooming in and cutting off my frame when capturing certain subjects. If you are unable to get in closer with using a zoom lens, you can zoom in later and crop in a photo software program. You'll be amazed at the difference when you crop out everything around the subject too, and even cropping into the subject. Tip number 4. Be aware of your lighting conditions. This is a big one that most professional photographers will mention in their photo tips. While the best time to take natural light shots is the hour immediately after sunrise and the hour before sunset, you can use natural light between those hours if done properly. Having the sun too bright can cause strong shadows, eye squinting, or drowned out images. This shot of my son was taken under some trees which created a nice muted light over him. So while you can use natural light outside or near brightly lit windows, using your flash can also have its advantages. Now this cat photo was taken with a flash. While she was laying by a large patio window, her face was being shadowed over. You can see how strong and bright the sun was on her back, which I still wanted to capture. The photo of the sleeping lion was an interesting one too. There were a lot of shadowed trees casting over him that created the perfect shadows. I quickly closed in on the lion with my zoom lens and snapped away before he heard me and woke up. Tip number 5. Be patient, be quick for the right moment. There have been so many times that I have waited and waited so I could capture that right moment, and of course there have been times that I've had to be very quick at taking the shot so I wouldn't miss it. This photo of a swan was taken at Presqu'île Provincial Park in Ontario, Canada. While I waited for the perfect moment, I also had to be aware of the male swan who was closely watching me too. You will see that while the mother swan is off-centered, the entire image is within a centered shot. The photo of the seagull was captured in flight, which took a lot of patience from me. You can also see that I didn't want to crop it too close, and I wanted to be able to include some of the blue sky and fluffy clouds. The photo here, taken at Niagara Falls, Canada. You can see that I did not take this photo with a flash and allowed the effects of the lighting and my camera to create more of a silhouette with the falls in the background. I was able to capture too the glimpse of the rainbow running centered between father and son.